15 hidden reasons your local business isn't as successful as it should be. Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm a local business marketing coach, and I teach business owners how to get more foot traffic and sales.
Hi, I'm Mari. I am a business growth strategist and mindset coach with 15 years of experience in social media and marketing.
So let's jump in. I'm going to start somewhere that often business owners don't think of as a big reason why they might not be as successful as they should be. Here are 5 common mindset blocks or fears that might be holding your business back.
Let's start off with the obvious one, which is number one, the first hidden reason that your local business isn't as successful as it should be, not looking at the business owner's mindset, fears, or limiting beliefs. This is one that I see really frequently. A business owner struggles with showing up consistently, if they struggle with a fear of abandonment, if they avoid having hard conversation, those are things that are going to really impact their business. It's going to impact how they show up as a leader, how they show up in their marketing, in their social media for their customers, and it's going to impact their ability to make money. If you have, for example, a fear of abandonment, and that fear of abandonment is in relationships, but it's also with money, you may be attracting the wrong customers because then it can lead to feeling like you need to make a sale, you need to bring it in. And that leads to giving out severe discounts or like making impulsive decisions when it comes to how you sell and how you bring in customers. And then you attract low quality customers. And these are all reasons that people forget to look at. Yes, we want to look at your marketing and your strategy, but we also want to look at the mindset of the person who's running the business, because there is always a correlation between a business owner and the business itself.
Yeah, very true. And who you are in your mind is how you show up in your business. So really, really important to be confident in all of it. Another really common one, I hear this all the time from business owners that I work with. The reason that I'm not making enough is because of the economy or the weather is bad or, insert XYZ outside force here. Now, I'm not going to say that, those things can't impact a business, but blaming outside forces because they're really not sure how to fix the internal structural issues that might be the real reason sales are slower. That's a really common mindset block that I see. And then it kind of eliminates the idea that they need to do something if the economy's to blame. But the reality is, the most successful businesses don't let those things be the reason that their business is not as successful as they want it to be. There's always a way to reach customers, to market your way out of a bad economy, right? There's businesses that will float to the top, and there's some that will let themselves be weighed down by those external forces. So, feeling like you have no control just because something might be going on outside your business is a really common reason I see people kind of not show up in their business the way that they should be to get those sales even when something's going on outside. Third one, like very, very common, and it's kind of a normal mindset block, like to Mari's first point, looking at your mindset, your fears around money. So I see very often a reluctance to invest in the growth tools that the business needs, whether that is the right systems like point of sale, like that sort of thing, but especially in something that might feel a little bit intangible like marketing, but it's actually central to, whether or not you're reaching real customers and you have that consistent flow of foot traffic and sales. So really being aware of your money mindset and maybe any fears or reluctance to invest when you're not quite sure maybe how to do it or where the best place to invest is. That's a really good way to stay stuck in your business. So whether that's, talking to your accountant, learning how much is safe to invest, or working with someone like what Mari and I do to help you understand the best ways to grow your business and where that money would be most effective. One of the kind of most dangerous things to do is trying to just raw dog your way into the business that you want. So having money to invest and feeling confident in how you're doing it is a really, really important part of, making your business a success.
Number 4 is definitely a perception I would say a lot of business owners have, and that is assuming people know who you are or they know something about your business because you posted it once or you talked about it one time. This is just unfortunately not true. If you have some kind of major event going on, You need to post about it over 10 times before someone really hears about it or knows that it's going on. And as business owners, I know that they don't want to come across as annoying. They don't want to like be doing too much and be bothering people. But unfortunately, with the reality of how people consume material these days, they just don't absorb information like they used to. And so you can tell someone something 3 times, but they may not hear it and they may not know about it or even have the interest in kind of like absorbing that. And so you do need to constantly be updating people, be pushing it out, and be talking about the same thing over and over and over again.
Exactly. He talk a lot about a recent stat that said most consumers have to see your business a minimum of 11 times on 4 platforms before they decide to buy from you,
Mhm.
every time they decide to buy from you. So having the consistency to keep the message going is really important.
Yeah. And there's so many business owners we talk to all the time who say, I've been here for years and I still have people all the time saying, I never knew you were here.
Everybody hates that phrase as a business owner, right?
Yeah. You don't want to hear it.
We don't want to hear it.
Number 5, the fifth hidden reason why your business may be struggling is you're afraid to be the face of your business, or you have this belief that you're not the best person to be the face of your business. Oftentimes, this belief is really rooted in beliefs surrounding social media about visibility, being seen, confidence, self worth at the end of the day. Because if you can shamelessly show up on social media and sell your business, and you're going to see the results from that, you're not going to be afraid to show up on social media. So, usually, this is kind of like a surface level belief that I see for people who don't want to look at the deeper issue and go into why they don't want to be the face of their business. Because really, the business owner is generally the best person to be the face of the business because they understand the business the best. They just have to sometimes learn how to communicate that to people who don't know about your business.
It's all part of your marketing strategy and your message. How do you show up to customers? That's how you should
Mm.
show up on your social media, in your marketing, everywhere that someone might see you before they walk in.
Yeah. And if you're scared to show up, to show your face, to have that visibility, that is something that ultimately, if you're going to run a business, you need to really work on because it's not an option to really run a successful business and not show your face.
That's a very succinct way to put it. I love that. It's not an option.
Yeah, it doesn't work, especially for a local business.
Awesome. So, yeah, and all of this really it goes back to that very first one, right? Like not understanding where you might be blocking your success because of
Mhm.
some mindset fears, right? Like each one of these really kind of relates back to that.
It all does. And moving on to our next kind of category here, when we look at marketing and social media strategy behind your business, these are the next few ways that you may be sabotaging, we could say.
Sabotaging is a good word. And like this is my bread and butter and how I work with business owners, right? One of the most common and most detrimental things is thinking about, again, marketing in terms of like you're going to get enough out of it using organic or unpaid channels versus paid. So, for example, I talk to business owners very, very often that are focusing primarily on social media, either because, it's what they've been told they need to do or because it's free and they're not thinking about paid social ads, for example, or they're not building an email list, or maybe not even using an email strategy at all. So, really have enough visibility as a business owner. You need to be very intentional and strategic about where you're using paid channels. This is, how you find new customers. It's paid ads in today's world. And then utilizing things like your email list and your social media to deepen that relationship with customers so that they keep coming back and thinking about you as the best place to get, your product or service.
The way I love to think about that is if you're building a car, you're building a business, and you're only using social media, it's like building the body of the car and forgetting about the engine, the wiring, like the steering wheel, all the other components that go into it. Only focusing on social media, unfortunately, is not a full strategy. And it's like one piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole thing that's going to, at the end of the day, help you become successful.
Yep. I mean, along those lines as well, when we're talking about marketing and strategy and paid versus unpaid, the other thing I see people doing is, someone from a local magazine or newspaper or radio, like insert channel here, will come in and say, "Hey, I've got a reach to 50,000 or, 500,000 people. And so if you give me $500 for this ad, 500,000 people are going to see it." Paid marketing should target actual customers, not just everyone in a given area. So again, being very strategic about where you're spending those marketing dollars and if you're reaching people who are your customers versus just kind of throwing some of that money around hoping that it comes back. Really, really important part of how you think about your overall strategy and where you're putting ad spend and into what channels.
Yeah, 100%. That brings us to our seventh hidden reason your local business may not be as successful as it should be, which is you believe posting equals sales. And by posting, I mean posting on social media equates to the number of sales you're going to get. So the more frequently I post, the more sales I'm going to get. Or this is the thing that I need to do in order to get more sales and more people to me. Unfortunately, it just does not equate one to another. There has to be more to posting than just putting content out there. And there's, as we kind of covered in our last step, there's multiple other things to do in order to bring those customers in. So many individuals, business owners that I talk to are like, well, I just need to post more. And the more I post, the more successful it'll be. But that is no longer true. That's not a reason that's going to make you successful. Yes, you should post. Yes, you can be consistent, but you don't have to post 5 times a day. You don't have to post 20 times a week. There's so much more that goes into that strategy behind it. And just blanket statement saying posting equals sales is not true anymore.
Yeah, it's not 2016 anymore. And a lot of my strategy with business owners, we're talking about like in today's day and age, the algorithms are so different. They're looking for signals and buying behaviors. So, what is a customer doing with a post? That drives sales versus just content. So, being very, very intentional about what your message is, being consistent in how you're showing up, not just in terms of how often you post, but in terms of what you're actually saying is so, so important.
Yeah, there's a lot of business owners too who say, "Oh, I really need to get some sales. I need to increase revenue this month. So I'm going to post a discount and put this offer out there of 25% off or 50% off to get those sales in." But at the end of the day, when you do that, you just train your audience to only buy from you when you're offering a sale or a discount. And then they wonder why they have these quote unquote like low quality customers. And it's because you're only getting sales when you offer a discount because that's what you have trained your audience to expect.
Absolutely. Friends don't let friends post discounts. It should be a once or twice a year clearance of whatever you're trying to get out of the store, sort of a thing, not a marketing strategy. On the subject of discounts, it's also the fastest way to make your main competition be bigger brands and online businesses, which, of course, is not a place where you want to be as a local business. You need to be seen as somebody very different and having that relationship with the customer versus just the lowest cost option. Um, if they're looking for price, it's hard to compete with that as a local business. So it's really, really important that you are thinking about your strategy, especially on something like social media, from the standpoint of, what is your relationship to the customer, not posting equals sales.
And you're cutting your profit margin. Like you're cutting your profit margin so much so you need sales, but you could have 5 sales or you could have 10 sales at a discount. So, but 5 sales makes you just as much money.
Exactly. So posting and sales there's not a direct relationship there. It's all part of your overall strategy and making sure that you're intentional with how you're talking to customers. Okay, so this one's common, and it's because there's an awful lot of, I would say, noise and advice out there. Number 8, a big reason why you might not be making the money that you want to make in your business is a lot of business owners are just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall when it comes to marketing, aka they have no strategy. And again, like I understand why. There's a ton of information out there. I tongue in cheek often kind of say there's a lot of bad marketers telling you to do bad marketing. It's things like, here's how you go viral on social media. Or to my example, of paid versus unpaid, there's someone who you're their end customer, they're selling you into an ad. They don't necessarily care if that works for your business or not. They're just trying to sell you into putting an ad in their magazine. When we are throwing spaghetti at the wall, just trying things, hoping something works, you're not only giving away far more money than you probably should be, but you're really impacting your time and your energy and your ability to, put that into your business in a meaningful way somewhere else. So I talk to business owners very, very often who are just burnt out because they feel like they're, being really, really, really hard, but it's just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. So when we are more intentional and we are working with a real strategy, you get to actually drive a lot more traffic and sales into your business by doing a lot less. Um, and obviously that's what we all want, right? Like there's no need to just constantly turn, think up new content, make yourself crazy trying to figure out how to make this work. When we're thinking about sales strategy or marketing strategy, it's really important we understand what drives a customer towards a purchase. I talk about all the time, what are the buying behaviors that we are targeting? You can't do that by just throwing random spaghetti at the wall and hoping some of it turns into sales. What we're doing is, having one specific message designed to attract the attention of your ideal customers and having them follow the rest of our strategy through, different platforms, right, into the business where they actually purchase. It's very systematized, it's very strategic, and it is the way that you actually drive real sales versus just expend all of your time, money, and energy doing things that you might have been told to do, but that are not really going to move the needle for your business.
I think the thing that I see a lot also with the spaghetti at the wall strategy, so to speak, is some shiny object syndrome because you don't have a clear strategy, you don't have a clear plan. And so oftentimes people will say, I'm going to try this next, and they give it 1 or 2 weeks to work, which is not realistic in the marketing world. Strategies, marketing can take months to see results from it. And then they get frustrated, they change the strategy or what they're doing again. And then they change it again because it's not bringing in immediate sales, immediate results. And a lot of that comes back to your mindset, impulsivity, that restlessness, and that saying, like, I need the results right now. And so that those two things often correlate, whether people want to admit that or not.
Yeah. And I mean, that's again incredibly common because, for example, if you are an expert coffee roaster, you're probably not an expert in marketing. You're looking for information and advice. That's not your fault as a business owner, but it is something that you really need to be aware of and make sure that you're intentional about following an actual strategy versus just advice on how to go viral, for example, because without it, it's just kind of constantly resetting every week, essentially.
Moving on to number 9, the ninth hidden reason your business may not be as successful as you want it to be. This one is a social media one. So number 9 is trying to do every platform instead of doing one or two really well. The thing about trying to do every social media platform is that your ideal customer probably doesn't live on every platform. They probably focus and spend their time mainly on one or two of them. And the content that's going to do well on on each platform is different. So if you're trying to put out content on every platform, you're not doing a great job because you're probably putting the same content on every platform. And again, like what does well on TikTok doesn't do well necessarily on Instagram. What does well on Instagram doesn't necessarily do well on Pinterest or Facebook or Twitter, or I guess X. It's X now.
Hmm.
And so when you focus on the platform where your primary audience is going to spend the most time, you focus on doing it really well and having a great strategy that works for that platform, you're going to see a lot better results than trying to spend your energy spreading it across all of these different buckets. I'd rather have a client who does one thing, one platform really well and not so on every platform that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would actually even say that that is not just a social problem, right? Like
Mhm.
trying to do every single thing that you possibly can do and being generic because you're just saying the same thing in multiple places isn't going to drive any sort of buying behavior. Having a strategy that, again, like very intentional, strategic, paid outreach, utilizing your one or two social platforms really well to deepen that relationship, and then talking about what they really care about when it comes to your product or service in email. Like that's a far more successful strategy than just, again, kind of posting constantly about new arrivals this week or a discount or, all the kind of common things that I see business owners doing across every platform. When you're generic, you're invisible. When you're intentional and customers are liking what they're seeing from you on different marketing platforms, they're going to pay more attention to you. They're going to show up more often.
And that brings us right into number 10, which is a lot of individuals on social media focus on trends or selling, and they do not focus on adding value, building trust, setting themselves up as an authority figure in that field. Because a lot of individuals are so focused on what I like to call in social media vanity metrics. And that comes down to likes, followers, views, but not necessarily giving your customers what they actually need or want. When we focus on putting trends out there, like wanting to go viral, those things don't necessarily equal sales. Follower count doesn't equal sales, neither does views or likes. What does equal sales is building a relationship with your customers or potential customers. And when you're going all in on like putting out trends and putting out all of these sales and contents, if you're getting low engagement, then you're like burning and churning. And then oftentimes you go silent for a month or 2 months on your social media pages. And there's this consistency that doesn't happen when you approach social media from this more grounded and realistic place, which is saying, like, I'm here to build a relationship with my customers. And if one customer gets value from this post, that's what I want. Because I see so many individuals, they focus on what I like to call as attraction content, which are those trendy things that are just fun and entertaining. And then they focus on selling content. But trendy content, you're reaching a really cold audience usually. Selling content, you want to be reaching a hot audience. And so you're missing this whole middle section where you're warming up potential customers and establishing a relationship with them.
Yeah. It's an analogy I often use here is you wouldn't jump on someone the second they walk through your door and go, hey, are you ready to check out now? That doesn't work in person and it doesn't work in virtual platforms either. So when we're talking to customers in our marketing, it really does have to follow that idea of building that relationship, understanding what's going to be the best fit for them and moving them naturally into wanting to buy from you.
Yeah, or you see people on social media too, just posting sales. And when you're just posting selling content of like, go buy this, go buy this, go buy this, then they're wondering why they're not growing because they're not doing any kind of attraction. They're wondering why people aren't buying. And it's because, again, you're not building that relationship.
Yeah. Goes back to the spaghetti at the wall versus following, a true strategic plan and how you're growing your business and utilizing your marketing channels.
Yes. The 10th hidden reason your business may be struggling or not as successful as you want it to be is you're giving out free products to content creators and expecting to get sales from this. This is one I don't think we've ever really talked about on here, but it's something that I see, especially with a lot of local businesses, is concept of content creators being able to sell your product or service better than you can, and that this is going to result in sales. I think that with content creators, first and foremost, oftentimes these, especially on the local business level, you're not necessarily giving your product or service out to people who have the same following that you're trying to attract or the customers you're trying to bring in. And this isn't happening in a strategic way. So usually there isn't really set guidelines of how this partnership or collaboration is going to work. There's not really insights and views into who their audience is outside of they have X followers. Those followers might not even be in your local area. They might not be in your age range that you're looking for. And there's usually not guidelines of like, how many times are you going to post? What does these posts look like? What are you talking about? What language are you using? Because from the content creator point of view, they want to get partnerships so that they have content to post so that maybe they're making some money off of it. And they're not necessarily concerned about your business and they probably don't really love your product. You want someone who loves your product, who talks to your audience if you're going to do these kind of partnerships and do them really well.
Well, and going back to, the first thing that we're talking about when we're talking about, paid versus unpaid, if you're going to give away product to a content creator that may or may not be able to sell your product or service as well as you could, that is again a waste of time, money, energy. Because even if it's free product, like you're still paying for that. A content creator that's going to really do your business justice, like to be frank, they're probably going to ask you for $500 or $1,000 for that post. I'd rather see you put that money into a really intentionally well crafted paid ad that you're able to target your real customers with than throw it away on one or two posts with a content creator, understanding what's really going to attract actual customers versus just, get content out there, which as
Yeah.
we keep saying is, not necessarily what drives real customers into buying from you. It's not just about the amount of posts you have or the amount of content that is out there about your business.
I mean, thinking about content creators and working with them, we go back to what we talked about earlier with people not knowing after you say something once. And so, for content creators to really work for you and with you, they need to be posting about you numerous times over the course of months in order to kind of see results from that. And on top of that, what people are often looking for with content creator relationships are those vanity metrics.
Yes.
So you're looking again at like their followers, their view count, how many followers is this going to get you from that? It's not looking at how many sales is this actually going to get you.
Yep. Clicks, likes, and views are not buying behaviors. I'm going to shift us into our last category. And this is probably the most hidden of the hidden reasons why your business is maybe not as successful as you want it to be. And so the last category is, where's your money really going? Like the holes in the bucket, so to speak, that can really undermine your profits. So the 12th hidden reason why your business might not be as successful as you want is if you're delegating anything, whether that's your in-store, help, or if it's hiring a marketing agency, or, as we were just talking about, hiring a content creator, delegating has to come from a place of your connection as the business owner to your message and your customer. I see this all the time where a business owner hasn't really done the foundational work to understand exactly what their brand voice and message is, how they're differentiating their product from the store down the street or the big box store. And so then what happens is they hire someone to post on social media, for example, or they hire a marketing agency, and it doesn't work because, again, anything that is generic or that isn't really intentionally built as far as your relationship to your customer goes is not going to be seen and it's not going to work. So if you're going to be hiring, you have to really understand that your connection to your message and customer, what it is, and then also how to translate that to the person you're hiring so that they will continue that connection and build that relationship the same way that you are. If you are delegating, trying to hire out your strategy, what happens from a customer's perspective is it feels really fractured. They're not really sure what experience they're going to get, whether that's through your marketing or in your store. And that tends to hurt your relationship to that customer long term. Like the buying behaviors are not as consistent if they don't feel like your business is consistent.
This brings us really seamlessly into number 13, which comes along with hiring out your strategy but this is more focused around like hiring out your strategy to people just to post. Oftentimes, there's a lot of local businesses hiring young girls who want to be paid $20 an hour or a couple $100 a week to post X amount. And that is the strategy. That is their deliverable is to post X amount a week for your business. But one, they don't necessarily understand your business. They don't understand consuming behaviors, buying behaviors, or like also they don't have a strategy behind it. They don't have like messaging strategy behind it that connects to the customer. They're just posting to post. So this is really great if all you want to do is show up consistently on social media and you do not care at all about getting any kind of results or return from it. If you don't care about getting sales or customers from it, you just want to have a consistent presence. And if your business is doing so well that you can do that and not care about it, then that's awesome. Go do that. But if you want to see return on your investment with social media, that is not a strategy that's ultimately going to bring people in the door.
Absolutely. And to that end, a lot of business owners know that they need, like in-person help. And so they're hiring out, again, to your point, like the local girl, the young girl, to help behind the cash register or what have you. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. But I talk to like 95% of people that do that. They complain to me that they might make 50% of the sales when the young girl is behind the cash register as they would if the business owner was there. That's not so much a delegation issue or a hiring issue as a messaging issue. You need to work with that person, make sure that they understand your relationship to customers and why you sell so well, and translate that into something that they can understand and repeat if they're going to be in your store or in your business. So it's
Right.
really, really important that you have that message in place and understand how you're using it so that you can delegate it to someone else.
And say, yeah, that translates into the social media. If you have gotten really good at doing your social media and your messaging and what that looks like, and you're having someone else do it, like teaching them how to do it and do it in a similar way. So at the end of the day, as a business owner, you are wearing a lot of hats, and it's really hard to wear every single hat. Oftentimes, the first thing to go is your marketing or your social media because you have so many other things that you need to do. So it's really easy to say, yes, for sure, I will pay you this money. Just go post because I don't have the time to do it. There's also so many other things that you can delegate out, or ultimately, you need to just make sure that there is a strategy for that person and that they really understand what your expectations are. Because again, posting is not a strategy.
Yep. Neither is just having someone standing behind your cash register to ring out a customer without doing any of the other things that customer needs to ultimately spend more money, right?
Yes.
So yeah, if you're going to hire, it's far, far better to do it, um, from a place of strategic delegation and understanding why you as a business owner are able to make that connection to your customer than it is to just throw some money at it and hope that it helps, right? Like ultimately that ends up being a bigger waste of your energy as well as the money that you put into it when you don't get those results.
Throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Number 14 is boosting posts and expecting this to give you more sales, more followers, more likes, more results. If you have ever boosted a post on social media before, you know you might get some new likes or some new followers, but they usually don't look like real people, let alone the customers that you're wanting to attract. Because ultimately, boosting posts, even if you put criteria on it, are generally not going to the audience that you are looking for. So this comes down to multiple things, but your messaging is not deterring the right people. It's not attracting the right people. And again, these boosted posts are for social media companies to make money, not for you to make money. So if you want to get into paid ads, there are other ones that you should be focusing on. That is not just clicking boost post because you want your post to look like you have more engagement with it than you really do.
Yeah. The analogy I often use is like boosting posts is like standing in the middle of a room with a megaphone, right? Like you're louder, but if people were not, utilizing that post to execute a buying behavior in the first place, it's not going to do anything at all in terms of moving your business forward. So if you're going to do any sort of paid spend on social media, a targeted paid ad that is focused on buying behaviors is the way to go in terms of actually getting real sales. Boosting is something that I never, ever recommend. Even 10, 15 years ago, when social media algorithms were different and just kind of posting would get your business seen, I still wouldn't have said that that is a good place to put your marketing spend. So if you're going to spend money, do it strategically on a targeted ad that reaches real customers.
I don't necessarily have proof on this. I'd be interested if you've seen this with customers who or clients who have historically boosted posts, but I feel like it also trains that social media platform that you are going to pay for engagement. And so then any posts you don't boost actually get less than what you had before.
That's a really good point, and I do, in fact, have actual metrics behind this from accounts that I've been, helping run for a decade or more. I'm thinking about one specific business here, and she did grow her boutique, went from like a couple 100,000 a year to 1 million a year. I came in kind of somewhere in the middle of that growth journey, and she had been boosting consistently, like almost every single post. It took me over a year to get her social media fixed where
Mhm.
anyone would see that if we weren't boosting because, ultimately, right? Like you are training the algorithm. Every action you take on social media is a data point that algorithm is going to use. Whether or not a customer does anything with it is a big part of it, but how you as the business owner are interacting with the account also trains it what type of behaviors it can expect from you. So it can really, really hurt your
That's so interesting.
it's wild, right? It can suppress your reach in general, yes, but it also, from an algorithmic standpoint, is basically saying that, I'm not engaged with my account anymore because I'm not putting money behind it. And
Yeah.
there is, but like friends
And
don't let.
I've seen that where people maybe post like 1 to 3, and then it seems to take like 1 to 3 months to recover from it. So I can't imagine if she was posting or like boosting posts consistently.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And again, nothing is unfixable, but goes back to that spaghetti at the wall strategy. If you're just kind of, boosting and hoping or think that you have to boost to have people see it, you're really, hurting your business. And that's a big hole in the bucket, right? When you think about the hidden places your money's really going, like you're just flushing it straight down.
'Cause you're not even
Basically
reaching
straight.
your audience.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it. Okay. Last but absolutely not least, number 15 of the reasons why your local business is not as successful as you want it to be. And this is one that a lot of business owners are often not aware of at all, but there's many places where there can be hidden like holes in your profit margin. And this can be just as detrimental to your business as not having enough customers. So when I'm working with a business owner who is, scaling and their business is growing, but they, just aren't actually bringing in any more profit. It's that there's too many places where they're bleeding margin. And this can be anything from like, having a high cost point of sale system because, you were sold into a contract or it seemed like an easy thing to, do at the time. Or not having the right pricing structure, posting too many discounts, right? Like as Mari mentioned, discounts are really nothing other than a way to give away profit. The only time I really suggest using them is if you are trying to blow out of some inventory that you're never going to want to bring back on the floor, right? The other place that I see that's a really big kind of hole or loss to businesses is not automating the customer relationship with marketing to get people coming back. So this is a really big focus once we figure out how to attract new customers, something like paid ads, you need to have your strategy and your customer kind of systems in place to reach out to them very, very regularly and make sure that you are driving as much repeat business as you can. And this is something that done right, you don't even necessarily have to put any time or energy into other than the setup. But if you are not automating that repeat business, that could cost a business as much as 40, 50% of sales that they're not getting, right? Like if you're focusing constantly on trying to think up new ways to get people in, of throwing that spaghetti at the wall, you're not driving that consistency with repeat customers, that can be a really, really big loss of profit or margin because the cost to acquire a customer the first time is usually fairly high. Depends on the business. I'm not going to throw like specific dollar amounts here, but like let's say that it costs you X to get a new customer in because you know that you have to reach them with paid ads and nurture them with social media and all these things. That's where a lot of the effort comes into with getting a customer. Once they come in, they love your business. Right there, we start automating your relationship with them in terms of, building loyalty programs, getting them into an automated marketing flow or strategy. And we understand what your customers want well enough that we know what a typical customer is going to come back every week or every 6 weeks. And you drive that behavior by making sure that 70, 80% of your customers that come in the first time and fall in love with you are seeing you enough to come back on that cadence. When you don't do that intentionally, you lose more of those customers and you are having to spend more to get new ones to replace them versus keeping your existing customers really engaged with you and buying more from you, lowering the cost to acquire a customer over time. Ultimately, as you've heard, everything comes down to really understanding your customer and having a strategy to have them move into a buying relationship with you. And that is Easier said than done in some cases, but also not as hard as it might sound. And so, if you want to learn how to do that for your business, we have all kinds of really powerful resources for you. You can click below to join Foot Traffic Framework's free Skool group, where we're going to show you exactly how to set up this system. And then we have a lot of different ways where you can have strategic support with everything from your marketing plan to your social media to your complete, delegation and marketing strategy. So click below, join us there, and we'll see you on the inside.